Shall we start now?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is your host for today, Noman Sheikh, an alumnus of B.N.N. College. I welcome one and all to the 15-day national level e-workshop on UGC NET JRF in English. In a world that's getting increasingly competitive by the day, qualifying for NET and JRF is almost essential for students of literature, especially if they wish to pursue a career in academia. I submit my sincere gratitude to our esteemed patrons, Shri Vijay Jadhav, Honorable President of Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav Bharatiya Samaj Unnati Mandal, and Shri Balakrishna Kale, the Honorable Executive President of the organization. We would also like to thank the Honorable Principal of B.N.N. College, Dr. Ashok Wagh, for his astute leadership. Further, we are grateful to the head of the Department of English, B.N.N. College, and the chairman of Board of Studies in English, University of Mumbai, our dear professor and mentor, Dr. Sudhir Nikam, for organizing this e-workshop. Likewise, we'd also like to sincerely thank Dr. S.R. Malunkar, the IQAC coordinator for B.N.N. College, Professor B.K. Paikrao, and Professor Rajni Wagmare for their efforts in organizing this e-workshop. This Pan India workshop has been organized to commemorate the birth centenary of Padma Shri Pandurang Dharmaji Jadhav, popularly known as Anna Sahib Jadhav. He is the founder of the Bharatiya Samaj Unnati Mandal. Anna Sahib was one of the earliest social activists of post-independence era who envisioned a literate India. The motto behind this revolutionary organization, Anna Sahib was awarded the Padma Shri 1971 for his exemplary contribution towards making formal education more accessible to the underprivileged children in Maharashtra, especially in the rural areas. Being an education visionary post independence was very rare, and Anna Sahib was just that, a man with rare qualities in an era of darkness of literacy, in an era where illiteracy and superstition gripped rural Maharashtra. Anna Sahib held the beacon of light and hope. He struggled relentlessly to achieve what very few believed could be materialized. There's a famous Chinese proverb: if you if you are planning for a year, sow rice. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people. And that's exactly what Anna Sahib did. He dedicated his life to educating young India. He believed that education is the only way to enlightenment, and struggling to spread education is the only struggle worth undertaking. Today, the Bharatiya Samaj Unnati Mandal makes education accessible to over 40,000 children in 18 villages, and the number keeps on rising year on year. The sheer grit and determination of that legendary educationist in the most hostile environment led to what has become one of the most revolutionary educational movements in modern day Maharashtra. So, now paying my tributes to the great man, I would like to move forward with the opening of this e workshop. I now request Dr. Sudhir Nikam to say a few words and shed light on this e workshop. So, please.
Thank you, Noman, for a nice introduction of the event. Friends, on behalf of the Department of English, B.N.N. College, Bhiwandi, I welcome all the participants in a 15-day national level e-workshop on UGC NET JRF in English on the occasion of the birth centenary year of our founder Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav. B.N.N. College, Bhiwandi, and the postgraduate department of English was established in the year 1966. We have an aided PG center and a very long legacy of net set qualified candidates in the Department of English. I am very happy and excited today to tell you that we have got exactly 4,528 registrations till now. So I dedicate today's event, which will run for 15 days, to the vision and dreams of our founder Padma Shri Anna Sahib Jadhav. So this is a very small attempt to dedicate this event to a visionary man of post-independence India who has tried to inculcate the values of liberty, equality, fraternity, justice, and moral character amongst the youth. So he has had dreamed that education has to be provided at the doorstep. So I thank the Honorable President of our management, Sri Vijayji Jadhav sir, Honorable Executive President, Sri Balakrishna sir, who have given a great support in materializing today's event. I equally thank our beloved principal, Dr. Ashok Wagh, due to whose support today's event has been possible. And I also thank the colleagues in the Department of English, Dr. S.R. Malunka, Professor B.K. Paikrao, Professor Rajni Wagmare. And interestingly, I would like to share that this event has been organized by our PG and UG students, as well as our strong tie of alumni. So this is the event which has been organized by the students, for the students. And I'm very happy that we are just catalysts. Teachers are just catalysts in the event. So once I introduce this event, my role is over. So every day, each session will be handled by our PG students and alumni. So my special thanks go to Dr. Srikant Mohan Rao from the Department of English, Government First Grade College, who has coordinated with all the resource persons and had made it a grand event. I also thank Mr. Shivaji Ingole, who works as assistant professor in the Department of English, University of Mumbai, who has created a very beautiful and gracious brochure of this event, and also Principal Umesh Bagal for his technical assistance. Friends, UGC NET JRF is a very long drawn affair. Students need to dedicate special time for it. They need proper planning and correct strategy and proper execution. So today, the old pattern of NET and SET examination and today's pattern of NET SET examination, both these patterns have a very huge difference. Now the students need to diversify their knowledge, adding new topics. They need to change perspective of looking at the texts. The way a student need to change their perspective looking at the text, and practical application of research and teaching is essential as far as the preparation of NET and SET examination is concerned. They need critical reasoning skills rather than factual details. Though the exam is of objective nature, but still most of the questions are of critical reasoning nature. There is a shift from British literature to world literature, and more new trends are being included in NET and SET syllabus. So modern trends and authors are also essential. Everybody's method of study is different. We should understand. So what others say is a different thing, and what we do is a very special thing. So everybody's way of preparation, everybody's way of understanding the text and responding towards the text and the situations and the movements in literature is different. So we need to focus on what is there which is strong within us, and we need to locate the strong points within us and focus on that. So time slot has to be prepared in a very meticulous manner. And now coming towards the books, which books have to be referred? There are lakhs of books in the market on NET and SET and reference material. However, whatever suits to you, you should choose. Everybody's way of perception, everybody's way of understanding is totally different. You need to prepare schedule. You need to have a revision. You need to expose to proper material, standard material. You have to make self-study. The only formula in cracking NET and SET is contemplation, revision, and relaxation. So apart from your studies, you need to give proper attention towards your health. So if your health is well, only then you will be able to focus on your study. Apart from that, you have to focus on what not to read. So an individual cannot read everything. That is a fact. But while reading the material, you have to segregate what to be read, what not to be read, what has to be read with a focus, what needs to be read in a scanning way. So contextualizing things is also important. Once you are familiar with the contemporary theories and approaches, you have to understand how to contextualize the things. You have to contextualize the author, you have to contextualize the period, theme, techniques, various theories. So I'm not here to guide you on NET and SET examination because there are almost 17 scholars who are specialized in different topics. So today's event is organized in such a way that all the 10 units of NET and SET examination will be properly covered. There are some units like cultural studies, research methodology, which are being emphasized in a proper way, and more resource persons have been deployed in order to guide the students. I am hopeful that after attending this 15 days event, students will definitely be rewarded, and it will be our pleasure to know the results of the students after they get the result of NET and SET. So I thank you, Noman, for giving me an opportunity to speak. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your kind words. Uh, your guidance has always been of great importance to us. So, I would now like to introduce our keynote speaker for today, a distinguished academician hailing from Kannur, now residing in Trivandrum, Kerala, Dr. N.M. Babu. Dr. Babu is an MA, MPhil, and PhD in English. He is a former senior faculty, Department of English, University College, Trivandrum. Dr. Babu also served as the assistant editor for Akashvani and Doordarshan under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting for 15 years. Likewise, Dr. Babu is the author of R. Narendra Prasad under Makers of Indian Literature series by Kendra Sahitya Akademi. He is also the author of the co-book. He is also the co-author of the book Introducing Film Studies. Dr. Babu is a recipient of many honors and awards, including the coveted Akashvani National Awards for the Best Documentary and Innovative Program 2004 and 5, Kerala State Award for the Best Commentator Voice Artist 2005, Special Jury Prize for Documentary at State Level TV Awards 2006. And at present, our honorable guest serves as the director at Radiant Center for English Studies, a premier educational institute at Trivandrum. So I would now like to request our esteemed guest, Dr. N.M. Babu, to take the stage and deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Norman. Thank you, Supir sir. I think I am audible. Okay.
Yes.
Norman, thank you so much for such good words, kind words spoken about me. Anyway, good evening and welcome all the participants. And I will today, what I'm proposing to do is, I will first introduce what is NET JRF because everybody knows it. Briefly, I will talk about the structure, the two papers, and later I will move on to the strategies to be followed in preparing for the daunting task of clearing an exam of this magnitude. I mean, this is not an easy cakewalk. This is not everybody's cup of tea. This is not to frighten you. Unless you are thoroughly prepared, cracking the exam is going to be Herculean, right? So I will first introduce the structure of the exam, the two papers, then I will talk about the strategies required for the right way of preparation for the exam. Then I will go to, giving you a random reading list, which all books we have to touch upon, which all books are essential reading for us for the preparation part. Then I will go into the intricacies of the question pattern. Particularly, please remember that the NET exam was started by the UGC way back in 1989-90, the year. That was the first time the exam was introduced nationwide. And that was the year when I qualified the exam, the first attempt itself. It was something like, a very dangerous situation for us because we didn't have any previous question papers. We didn't have any idea as to how to prepare. And we simply went and, appeared the exam, and qualifying was very difficult. Anyway, that was the year when I qualified. When it was started, first it was conducted, the exam was conducted by the UGC, then it was taken over by the CBSE. And since December 2018, the exam has been conducted by another agency called NTA, everybody knows it, National Testing Authority, and since December 2018. And since NP has taken over, there is a paradigm shift in the pattern of the questions included in the question paper. It has become very complicated, very elusive at times, and sometimes, students, even teachers, I have been teaching students for NET JRF exam for the last 8 or 9 years, and still I am doing the same. But even teachers of such experience find it very difficult to answer some of the questions set by the NTA as part of the test. Okay, as you all know, there are two papers, paper 1, paper 2. Paper 1 is, there is a qualifying minimum for both the papers. For general category candidates, they have to score minimum 40% in both paper 1 and paper 2. That is the qualifying minimum. And in the second stage, the aggregate score of paper 1 and paper 2 will be taken into account. And for other category students like OBC, non-creamy layer, then SC, ST, and other candidates, the minimum qualifying cutoff is set to be 35%. Well, but your final positioning will be determined by the aggregate score in the second stage, aggregate score of paper 1 and paper 2. And as we all know, the top 6%, it is given to understand that the top 6% will be eligible for the award of assistant professor, out of which the topmost 1% will be eligible for the award of JRF, Junior Research Fellowship. This is the pattern currently, even though there are some variations this time, because from various corners I have been told that out of some 58,000 plus students who appeared the exam last time in English, 6% have not been declared eligible for assistant professor. It comes to only 4.5%. We do not know exactly what has happened. Anyway, that is only an apprehension that I can share with you at the moment. Now, when we come to the question pattern, there is something very interesting which I have observed. Generally, 60% of the whole questions, there are 100 questions in paper 2. I'm talking about paper 2 only, because paper 1, there will be a specialist coming. I'm talking to you. There will be 50 questions. Each question carries 2 marks. So the total will be 100 marks for paper 1. For paper 2, it will be 200 because there are 100 questions. So the total will be out of 300. The total time allotted is a composite 180 minutes or 3 hours. And you can, based on your, strengths and weaknesses, divide the time between paper 1 and paper 2. If you can do paper 1, if you feel more comfortable with paper 1, you can spend less time there and you can come and spend more time with paper 2 and vice versa. All right. Now, 60% of the total questions out of the 100 questions in paper 2 will be normally. There are exceptional cases, tests where, the percentage varied a little this side or that side. But generally speaking, some 60% of the questions will be from British literature. 40% will be from the other areas, even including world literature, as Sudhir rightly said. There are more questions from world literature, like, European fiction, European drama, things of that kind. So electives will have only 40% share, generally speaking, in the 100 questions part of paper 2. Of these questions, 100 questions, 40% of the questions will be relatively easy to answer for any student with average knowledge of English literature, one who has successfully completed the post-graduation. Another 30% will be slightly more difficult, moderately difficult, another 30%. This is what I have done, a kind of analysis of the various question papers over the years, especially after NTA has taken over the charge of the conduct of the examination. The last 30% of the questions will be really complicated, will be very difficult. Some cannot be answered at all. You will have to go for wild guess or intelligent guess using the technique of positive elimination, of eliminating one or two options and arriving at a more common sense based answering method called positive elimination. In some cases, you will have to go for the wild guess. Yes, this 30% is decisive. It gives you the cutting edge, the essential cutting edge. If you can at least answer 50% of these 30% questions, you are in, no doubt. If your answers are right, you are in. Because already you can answer 40% very easily. Another 30% moderately difficult. Okay, you can do it if you have taken some serious preparation for the exam. But the last 30%, if you can at least do 50% of this 30%, half of this 30%, it is certain that you will definitely qualify the exam. Sometimes you will be eligible for even, I say, the award of JRF. What kind of strategy should we follow while preparing for an exam of this kind? Of course, as Sudhir sir rightly said, we should be able to contextualize things. For that, we should have an essential knowledge of the history of English literature. So the first thing that we have to take care of is reading a standard history book, a standard history book of English literature. There are umpteen books available in the market. There's a plethora of books. If you go to a market, all the bookstores are flooded with books on English history. I mean, history of English literature. But you should be choosy and selective in selecting the right kind of book. I always recommend the Routledge publishers' book, History of English Literature, which I find, among all the books available in the market, I find very comprehensive, very informative, and very systematic. The first, they fix the age, discussing the socio-cultural context and changes brought about during the period. Then they go to the writers and the major works. And in many cases, the oeuvre or the total works of an author will be discussed threadbare in that book, Routledge publishers, History of English Literature. This is only my recommendation. I don't prescribe it. I don't prescribe it. This is my suggestion. Okay. You can read Albert, you can read any other book which you want, Crompton Duquette, or any other book which you need. There is Cambridge History, there is Norton Anthology, this is a multi-volume series, which is also voluminous, and only if possible, you will have to spend decades reading those anthologies. That will be a very difficult thing for you. So this is the first essential reading. The second essential reading is to have at least 2 glossaries of literary terms. Of course, our Bible of literary terms is M.H. Abrams, a glossary of literary terms, which is, I think, every PG student must have a copy, own copy. In addition to this, you can go for, another copy of Penguin Dictionary, edited by J.A. Cudden. These are the 2 books which can be used for the glossary part. And in addition to this, you should have some knowledge of theory, particularly literary and critical theory, for which there are 2 good dictionaries available in the market. One is Oxford Dictionary of Critical Theory, a small book, not very expensive, paperback edition available. And there is an equally useful book by Penguin Dictionary, Critical Theory, Dictionary of Critical Theory. So Oxford and Penguin, these are the 2 books which you may keep an individual copy of your own for this purpose because you can read entries and clarify things instantly using this dictionary. Now, when we come to the question of strategizing things further, what is required of a student preparing for this exam? I tell you, there are two types of information required for the students. The first is, I would like to describe it as indexical information. Indexical in the sense, say, for example, remembering years. When was the first folio of Shakespeare published? 1623. When was the second folio? 1632. You reverse the two digits in the end. First folio 1623, second folio 1632, and the dedications regarding to whom the books have been dedicated. So remembering years, names, etc. Names of authors, names of works, names of editors, names of publishers, names of magazines in which the works were published. All these form the indexical information, which can be obtained rather easily from any history books or glossary or from other readings. We can obtain this information. Say, for example, the first printed anthology of English poetry. This is an indexical information. It is Tottel's Miscellany, published in 1557, which contained mostly or chiefly poems written by Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, and Thomas White. Well, this is an indexical information. Similarly, I can give you how many books were there when Spencer published the so-called The Fairy Queen. He actually planned to write some. He planned to write some 12 books in the epic tradition, but unfortunately, he was able to complete only 6 of them. This is an indexical information. I have given you the simple example, right? So remembering names, years, names of people, names of authors, names of books or works, names of publishers, the editors, all these are part of obtaining indexical information, which is indispensable for any student. The second kind of information, that is more important. I would like to describe it as insightful information. Insightful information. Say, I will come to some examples. Okay. Say, for example, when we study a poem like Ozymandias by P.B. Shelley, we know that Ozymandias was a sonnet, in fact, a short poem. And we study the background, Ramses II, the Egyptian pharaoh, who built a big statue, and now it's lying in a shambles. Okay. A traveler came from this place, antique place, and he reported to the poet that now there is only one head and, huge legs only there. Trunkless body was lying in the desert. But there is something to be gained about this poem, how it came to be written. It was actually a competition. A competition. And with his friend, with Shelley's friend, I think, yes. The day after the publication of the original Ozymandias that we studied, the other man submitted his Ozymandias. So that will be very interesting, and that will give you an insight into how the poem came to be written. I have just cited an example, that's all. So, for example, when we study the age of Chaucer, as we have already mentioned, we should be able to contextualize things. We should understand the kind of boldness expressed by Chaucer in choosing English as his language, while even people like Thomas More chose Latin to write his Utopia. Only for an elite audience, not for the common man. But it was Chaucer who did it. So we should know the age. He lived through the reigns of 3 monarchs. 3 monarchs, lived under the reigns of 3 monarchs. Corresponding to these 3 monarchs, there are 3 periods in his literary works. Of course, we study the major books, Canterbury Tales, Prologue to the Canterbury Tales, then the Legend of Good Women, The House of Fame. All these we study, Troilus and Cressida, and all these works we study, but sometimes we discard or we simply ignore the minor works of Chaucer. So, for example, there are several shorter poems written by, or at least attributed to Chaucer. Poems like A, B, C. And there is another a series of complaints that he wrote. Among these complaints, there is one very important complaint, a very impressive poem. Chaucer, his complaint to his purse. That is the title of the poem. Chaucer, his complaint to his purse. What is the significance of this poem? In fact, we have to remember the fact that Chaucer, by profession, was not a writer. By profession, he was a courtier, diplomat, and soldier even. He fought in the 100 Years' War. Remember, whenever we come across Chaucer, an area of Chaucer, remember two important developments, historical events. One is the recurrent bubonic plague, Black Death. Another is 100 Years' War in the background, 100 Years' War. So, what is the significance of this poem? Actually, this is not a complaint to the purse. And, Chaucer, we are given to understand that used to write or compose poems and read them out aloud to the members of the court. And complaint to the purse is actually a reminder to Henry IV, the then monarch, that his annuity or annual pension is long due. It was not paid. And that is why he writes this complaint to the purse, only to remind Henry IV, okay, that his annuity is pending. So there are some, useful information that we get in connection with the times, the particular context, and the social milieu in which the writer lived and wrote things. Similarly, I can give you at random another example. John Dryden, he wrote a poem in 1667 titled Annus Mirabilis, the Year of Wonders, Annus Mirabilis. Why did he describe the year 1665-66 as the year of wonders? There are three things to remember in this context. Simply, we learned that Annus Mirabilis, literally translated as, the year of wonders. What happened? What are the major events that happened, and in what way the year became so wonderful? The first thing is the victory of the St. James Day battle over the Dutch. They have been fighting for, the naval forces have been fighting for quite some time. And finally, the victory came to England in the final battle, which is known as St. James Day battle, St. James Day battle with the Dutch. The second wonder was the great fire, that was about to devour the whole of London, but London was spared. That was another wonder. The third wonder is that Dryden was staying away from the city in a remote area because there was plague. And finally, London was able to overcome all these disasters. And that is why this is described as Annus Mirabilis. So when we study the poem, we have to study the things connected with it, interrelated with it. And this kind of a branching out will help us understand more about the author and his or his works. See, when I was teaching in my class, Marlowe's Place, talking generally about Marlowe's Place, talking about the university of Leeds and its leader, Marlowe, Christopher Marlowe. I was just explaining the nature of the place, the features, the characteristic features of the place. Look at the heroes of all the plays written by Christopher Marlowe. They are known by a particular name, all the heroes, Overreaches. They are called Overreaches. They have superhuman powers and ambitions, very vaulting ambitions they have. Look at Dr. Faustus. Look at Tamburlaine the Great. Look at the Jew of Malta. All the plays contain heroes who have got superhuman powers. So they are called overreaches, which cannot be reached ordinarily under ordinary circumstances. When we talk about this, why Marlowe made his heroes such, superhuman proportions, we have to know something about the kind of life that Marlowe had. He was an atheist. He did not believe in professed Christianity. He did not profess Christianity. He did not believe in Christianity. He was an atheist. And, he was spied after by the king all the time. Spies were sent after him. Wherever he went, wherever he moved about, spies were sent. And from his room, some documents were later recovered. Those all documents were connected with, rejecting Christianity, rejecting religious faith, challenging authorities, and things of that kind. It's but natural then that from a writer like Christopher Marlowe, we cannot expect anything different, right? And look at his death finally. He was stabbed at a place called, in a tavern or a house called, in a place called Deptford, D-E-P-T-F-O-R-D, Deptford. And when we talk about the stabbing incident and his murder by a man named Ingram Fraser, who stabbed him, and his, premature death at a very young age, we should be able to connect this fact with another thing. I always tell my students in the classroom, UGC NET JRF classroom, that there is a wonderful novel, postmodern novel, written by Anthony Burgess in 1993, titled A Dead Man in Deptford, which beautifully describes the circumstances and the killing of Marlowe. So we should know what all works were written on a particular person, author, subject, whether there are biopics or films made on such people, whether there are filmic adaptations or intersemiotic adaptations of a particular work. All these things are very, very important. All right. This is the kind of reading that we require, interconnecting things, interrelating things, right? Say, for example, day before yesterday, I was teaching Keats and his great odes. We know all the great odes, in all 6, all the great odes were written in the spring of 1819, which is described as the living year, the most productive year, 1890, the spring. I was teaching all the odes. Okay, I was giving information about all the odes, the composition, genesis, everything. And when it came to Ode on a Grecian Urn, which is the best example of Keats' Hellenism, love of things that are Hellenic or Greek, I told my class students, in the class, I told my students that it's an ekphrastic poem. They never knew what is ekphrastic poem. Ekphrasis is a device, wherein we use literary writing to describe visual arts. It is in the form of a poem describing the visual art, particularly in this case, the sculpture, the Grecian urn. So this is what I said there. And I have asked my students to make a list of such ekphrastic poems which you have studied as part of your syllabus, MA syllabus. And, they were very quick to come up with a random list of ekphrastic poems, including Browning's My Last Duchess, which talks about that picture hanging there on the wall, which is concealed. Andre del Sarto by Browning again, talking about the unfinished piece, talking about Raphael and others. Then in the 20th century, during the 1930s, the 30s group leader, Mr. Auden, wrote Musée de Beaux-Arts. Musée de Beaux-Arts, that is the correct way in which that poem will be pronounced, Musée de Beaux-Arts, but written as Musée des Beaux-Arts, right? Musée de Beaux-Arts. Actually, he was inspired to write this poem after visiting the Museum of Fine Arts in Belgium, Brussels, Belgium, where he could see a painting by Peter Bruegel. Which was that painting was The Fall of Icarus. The Fall of Icarus. We know how Icarus fell. Finally, the wax wings melted. He was warned by his father not to go very close to the sun while flying down, but he disobeyed. That is man's nature. And The Fall of Icarus was a painting by Peter Bruegel, and that painting inspired W.H. Auden to write a poem on this. There is Tom Gunn's poem In Santa Maria del Popolo. In Santa Maria del Popolo, another ekphrastic poem which we have studied, right? So in this way, we are able to connect things, interrelate things, this is the way in which, insightful thinking can be developed. And if we have insightful thinking, what is the benefit? I will come to that towards the concluding part of my presentation, which is not too far away, because I know that these 15 days long workshop will have specialists, experts or specialists talking on each areas. And I will not waste your precious time talking too much about this. I just wanted to give you as to how we should plan ourselves, equip ourselves for this kind of a preparation. I will give you one more example. I was teaching Blake's London poem, London. Then I asked my students, how many London poems are you familiar with? Then they come up with answers. Of course, there is composed upon the Westminster Bridge, a sonnet by William Wordsworth. There is another, poem by William Wordsworth himself titled London 1802. There is, before the time of William Wordsworth, there was, and William Blake, there was Dr. Johnson's London, a famous poem written by Dr. Johnson. And there was another poem written by T.S. Eliot titled London in the 1920s. So we can make a list of them. Probably the question will be asked, which of the following poems are not based on the city of London? Or which of the following authors did not write a poem on the city of London? Such questions are asked in the negative way, in an indirect way. We must have some knowledge about this. And that is why I tell you that in this way, you can branch out from one thing to another, from one work to another, from one author to another. Maybe, we keep our eyes on a 17th century poet of the Restoration period, but we have to know the developments in the 20th century or 21st century in contemporary times. Okay, now I come to the concluding part of my presentation. What is the benefit of acquiring this kind of information? Is it very easy or time consuming? I tell you honestly, when I took the test in 1989, I had to rely on my notes written during the lecture hours in the classroom. In addition to that, I had to depend exclusively on the library books. Buying books was not so easy for us then. Our economic condition didn't allow us to be so. So we had to depend on the books available in the library mostly. And in order to get information, you will have to slow, read and read, waste a lot of time, your energy. But now things are at your fingertips. When you want to search for an information, there is an information overload. You just Google, you just find out. But don't always go after Wikipedia. This is my advice, because even though it is full of rich information, I tell you honestly that some are unedited facts, maybe somewhere it goes wrong. But there are very credible sites. It's not necessary that you have to subscribe to study.com, paying some £60 every 6 months. That is not possible for a student. But for teachers, maybe that is possible. Enotes.com, you can subscribe, say $15 for a year. There are other useful, websites which you can make use of. Make use of such, to my students in the very first week itself, I give you a list, a printout of the list of such websites, which I know are very useful and which contain valuable information for our purpose. Not for the general purpose, but for our purpose for this examination. So by acquiring this kind of an information, the benefit is you feel yourself more informed, which will give you, fillip or a boost to your morale, and your confidence will go up. And why should, in the end, I would like to ask you the question. You will be more motivated the more you read. Of course, I know, everybody knows. There is no doubt about it. The more informed you are, you feel very confident, your confidence level goes up. That will help you do better in the examination with improved confidence. But I have a few words to the aspiring students. Teaching is a noble profession, which has a great degree of acceptance in our society, which is a very decent profession. And also now, it has become a very lucrative position as well. Remember, we have very, hefty pay packages offered to assistant professors after the 7th pay commission has been implemented. So the pay is attractive, working conditions very attractive. I don't know how the condition in other parts of the country, but relatively you are free. There is not too much of pressure of workload on us. Of course, it has become a little more clerical now because we are supposed to do clerical job as well in the department, uploading, downloading, yes, things of that kind. Paper evaluation every semester. There is no breathing space in between. Exams happen every day on a daily basis. In spite of all this, notwithstanding all these, demerits, I tell you that this is a noble profession, and your social esteem will go up while you join as an assistant professor now or as a lecturer earlier. So this is the ideal choice for you. I know that you are all very keen on making this. And, I will give you an anecdote to end my presentation. I was under the central service for about 15 years, as mentioned by Norman here. I was drawing 3 times higher escape under central government while I joined collegiate education in Kerala under the government service, state government service. 3 times higher. But still, I had the passion burning within me. One day, I had prioritized my objectives in life. My second priority was teaching. But unfortunately, in Kerala, from where I hail, there was a ban on recruitment of lecturers for about 15 years. 15 years, right from 1985 to 2003. And only in 2003, a notification appeared from the part of the Public Service Commission, Kerala Public Service Commission, notifying vacancies. And that's why the delay. Otherwise, I would have joined earlier. So once you have the fire within, once you have the passion for teaching, not all can become teachers. I tell you honestly, not all can become teachers, even though all can aspire. You must have this fire. And you must be prepared to update yourself. It's a great job. It's a great profession that gives you an opportunity to be a constant updater, a learner all the time. Every year, when you go and teach the same subject, even if you are teaching the same topics, you update yourself. You get a lot of time for it. You get 2 months paid vacation. In which employment will you get 2 months paid vacation? And all the government holidays are holidays for us. And we are working only 5 days a week. That too, till 3:30 or 4:30. Then we are free, right? So there are several advantages, and you make use of this as your golden chance. Prepare thoroughly. Keep, if anything useful I said in my presentation, alive in your memory, and try to have a systematic plan about your preparation. And I wish all the aspirants who have been listening to me all success in your future. And I hope that some of you will make great, teachers, celebrated teachers in future. And I look forward to meeting some of you then or talking to you later when I grow old. Yes, probably we will have a chance to be so in interaction. And I express my sincere thanks to Dr. Srikanth and Suthir Nikam sir for inviting me to deliver the keynote address. In fact, I should be very thankful to Dr. Srikanth because Dr. Srikanth was a NET JRF student under me here at Trivandrum. He was undergoing training here, and our relationship has been very long standing. And this time when he called me, he was telling me time and again that your classes, your lectures on Foucault I gave some 6 hours on Foucault, and those lectures are unforgettable. I still have, my memories fresh with your lectures. And okay, so I express my sincere thanks to Dr. Srikanth for contacting me and the head of the department, Sudhir Nikam, sir. Thank you so much. And all the authorities, all the participants. I cannot name the name of the college exactly because I'm not pretty familiar with the names of the principal and others. So on behalf of everyone who took pains to organize this, great event, I express my sincere thanks. And I once again thank all my listeners and people who have been listening to this, watching me. Thank you so much. Bye.
Those were extremely insightful and motivating words, sir. Thanks a lot for your great speech. And we also hope that we get a chance to meet you and learn more from you whenever we get an opportunity. Thanks a lot,
All
sir.
right. Okay. All right. Welcome.
So I would now like to request our honorable principal, Dr. Ashok Wag, sir, to deliver the presidential address and encourage the attendees. Over to you, sir.
Very good evening to one and all. May I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir, clearly.
Sorry for delay to join in the meeting. I was busy in the college work and some other important work in the management office. Just I joined in the meeting, but I listened to Mr. Babu, Dr. Babu. His very elaborative speech. His speech is very elaborative. And I think it will be fruitful to our student who have joined for this 15 days national level workshop on UGC NET and JRF in English. And I congratulate Dr. Sudhir Nikam and his colleague to conducting such type of event in the B.N.N. College at national level. So basically, uh, our institution is trying to do for the student and basically for the Down syndrome student who are coming from the poor family and as well as deprived family. So I again welcome Dr. N.M. Babu, who have been uh, addressing his keynote address. And again, I congratulate Dr. Sudhir Nikam and his colleagues to conducting such event. Thank you very much, sir, for such type of a good event and which will encourage to the student
Thank you,
for
sir.
becoming a good teacher as well as the professor in either in the colleges or at university level. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for sir for your encouraging words. I would like to take this opportunity to first summarize whatever Dr. Babu has just said to us in his speech. His speech can be classified into two parts. First is the structure, and second are the strategy. Uh, in his structural part, he mentioned how the emergence of NT as the over of the governing body of the exams has made the exams more competitive and more elusive in nature. He also mentioned how he also broke down uh, the number of questions that are relatively easy and the questions that need a more in-depth knowledge, and also those questions that are extremely tough and ways to tackle them. He's also given us the second part, which is strategies. uh, his strategy was based on three critical parts. First was the essential knowledge of history of English literature. He has advised us to study the standard history thoroughly. The second part is uh, the aspirants must have at least two glossary books of literary terms. And third, we need to have a thorough knowledge of critical theory reading. especially from the books of Oxford and Penguin. Uh, he's also classified information in two categories, that is indexical information, which includes dates, years, numbers, statistics, timelines, and the second type of information, which is insightful information, which includes backstories behind different kind of famous and legendary works, the philosophies behind them, the contexts, the features of specific eras, and related stuff, so that we have a connected and an interconnected feel with the entire literature that we are about to study. He's also advised the students to make good use of internet through authentic websites and gather as much information as possible. And he has suggested that having more information will help us uh, grow in confidence and motivate us during our exams and even in our career and in life in general. So with these words, we like to now conclude the event. And but before concluding, I'd just like to inform that the second day of the schedule, that is tomorrow, will begin at 7 p.m. We'll have Professor Shivaji Ingole, Assistant Professor of University of Mumbai, delivering his speech on the topic UGC NET, UGC NTA NET, and overview. So thank you one and all again for your participation, and good night and God bless. Thank you all.
Thank you, Noman.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.